What a sad new normalcy. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. I was in New York City this week to host my SiriusXM radio program and to tape a CNN special. So Tuesday night, I walked down 54th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue en route to dinner. The scene was typical Manhattan during the holidays. The traffic was gridlocked. There was a light drizzle, 50-degree temperatures, but that didn't deter holiday shoppers who were walking by with their packages. Workers were headed towards subway stations. Large windows gave me a view into a hotel bar on the south side of the street. It was packed. There was a normalcy to it all, but nothing about it was normal, at least not to me. The following morning, I walked that same stretch en route to my radio studio. The city was now coming to life. The streetscape was dotted with Uber drivers and construction workers unloading drywall from a big truck next to the Ziegfeld Theater. This is my customary route to work in the city. I wasn't drawn by any morbid curiosity. It was Wednesday in the 6 a.m. hour. I slowed my gait as I passed a side entrance to the Hilton Hotel, realizing that this was the same day, in the same early morning hour, in the precise location where 1 week prior, a 50-year-old father of two was assassinated. But something was missing. Any sign whatsoever of the tragedy that occurred right here and which has captivated the nation. We've all seen the crime scene that's been shown many times in the media. There it is. But a week later, here's what was left. A lone piece of NYPD crime tape affixed to a barrier. No memorial of the kind that often appears spontaneously after a similar tragedy, like when John Lennon was murdered in New York City in 1980, or when 32-year-old Heather Heyer was run down in Charlottesville, Virginia, George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis, the spot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber were shot and killed by Kyle Rittenhouse. Crowds grieve the loss of Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who was fatally shot on the set of the film Rust. The University of Georgia held a vigil for Laken Riley, a nursing student who was killed by a migrant near campus. And when Donald Trump returned to the site of his first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, supporters appropriately honored Corey Comparatore's life and service by placing his firefighter's uniform in the stands. But there was no sign of any makeshift memorial on 54th Street. Instead, a poster was taped outside the Hilton Hotel depicting the suspect as a saint with the words, "Free Luigi," a reference to the 26-year-old charged with second-degree murder. And there have also been sightings of wanted posters targeting other corporate executives in Midtown Manhattan, which I find rather despicable. On the Ivy League campus from which the alleged shooter graduated, an assistant professor at Penn wrote on TikTok that she'd never been more proud to be a professor at the university and reportedly called the alleged shooter an icon we all need and deserve. At least she later apologized, saying that her comments were both insensitive and inappropriate. One person who has spoken out, Brian Thompson's boss, United Health Group CEO Andrew Whitty, he eulogized his late colleague in a New York Times op-ed, writing this, quote, "Brian was one of those people. He was raised in the same Iowa farmhouse as his mom. His dad spent more than 40 years unloading trucks at grain elevators. BT, as we knew him, worked farm jobs as a kid and fished at a gravel pit with his brother. He never forgot where he came from because it was the needs of people who live in places like Jewell, Iowa, that he considered first in finding ways to improve care." And as Brian Thompson's family, friends, and colleagues mourn his killing, the Wall Street Journal, I think, correctly noted this: "It's a dreadful sign of the times that Mr. Mangione is being celebrated in too many places as a worthy avenger instead of allegedly deranged killer. But that's how our culture has degraded, egged on for political purposes or audience ratings by many who know better. Brian Thompson's sons will never see him again. Mr. Mangione faces a murder charge in New York that could send him to prison for the rest of his life. Anyone who sees that as anything other than a tragedy deserves the scorn that we hope they receive." So true. And that all needs to be said first in any assessment of what just transpired. It's all a rather un-American response to a murder, as noted by Jeffrey Sonnenfeld and Stephen Tian in an analysis that they wrote for Yale. Look, our healthcare system is broken, but it won't be fixed through the barrel of a gun. It has to happen through legislative and executive action by politicians who are willing to prioritize the concerns of those they were elected to serve instead of the lobbyists whose contributions elected them and keep them in office.